crochet tank top has quickly become my favorite to wear this summer, so I'm excited to do this pattern on camera for you, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I have. For this video, I will be using the Stroll fingering weight yarn. This is the Dove Heather. It has 231 yards per 50 grams. This is a super fine merino wash wool and 25% nylon. So this is a great yarn option too. It does have a great drape. My first one I made in comfy fingering. These gauge the exact same for me. So it's fine to substitute when you can meet gauge. So I want to show a couple options for this since I know not everyone loves cotton. I love cotton. If you've never tried the comfy cotton, that might be why you don't like cotton. You need a really soft one to wear. For this tank, you will also need 6 buttons and you will need a sewing needle and thread in order to put those buttons on, a yarn needle, scissors, stitch markers. The reason why I have 6 here is I like to mark where I'm going to place my buttons, and then a size C 2.75 millimeter hook. Let's go ahead and get started. Now I want to use a little bit of a bigger yarn and hook to show you the stitch repeat for this pattern. Before we jump in and do a really long chain, it might not be a bad idea to do a gauge swatch. That's always really important, or to even just practice the stitch pattern. So this stitch, you can chain in multiples of 6 plus 5, and I will show you that repeat. So I'm going to chain 11. And now I'm going to work my very first row, and I do have a chart in the written pattern. If you like to follow charts, there's a chart of the stitch pattern repeat that makes it really nice so that you can work this if you are comfortable with charts versus the written instructions. Now we are going to do a stacked single crochet right into the very first chain here. I like to work in the back humps for this row, so I'm going to insert my hook into the very first chain through the back hump, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, which that's a single crochet, but we're not done yet. We're going to go right back into this left bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2. I find it really crucial to mark your stacked single crochets because it really creates a nice straight edge, but it also along the edge of it looks like it could be 2 stitches, but it's only 1. You're going to mark the top of that stitch, and this counts as your first stitch in this row. Now we are going to double crochet into the next 5. After double crocheting 5, we are going to chain 1 and skip 1. Now that right there, those first 6 stitches, that set of 6 stitches is your pattern repeat until the last 4 stitches of this row. The last 4 stitches we're simply going to double crochet into each, and that is the end of row 1. So row 1 doesn't look like much, but once you keep working these row repeats, you'll see it creates a beautiful diamond look. For row 2, we're going to start with a stacked single crochet. And next we'll do our 6 stitch pattern repeat, which is to double crochet 2, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into that chain space. You're always going to double crochet into the chain spaces when you come to those. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And that's our 6 stitch repeat until the last 4 stitches of this row. And for the last 4 stitches, we are going to double crochet 2, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the last. And then we can turn our work. Now for row 3, we're always going to be starting with a stacked single crochet stitch. And then we will double crochet into the next. And then we will chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and then double crochet again. So the repeat for this row is to do a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next 2. And that is the 6-stitch repeat for this row until we get to the last 4 stitches, which for those 4 stitches, those will be a double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the last 2 stitches. And now we're going to turn. For row 4, we'll start with a stacked single crochet. Then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2. And then here comes our 6-stitch repeat. We will double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and then double crochet into the last 2. And that's the end of row 4. So row 4, we'll do a stacked single crochet in the first, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2, and then our 6-stitch repeat is to double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2 until we get to the last stitch and double crochet. After doing that repeat across, then you'll double crochet into that last stitch. Then we'll turn and do row 5. So for row 5, we will start by doing a stacked single crochet in the first stitch. And then our 6-stitch repeat is to do a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2 stitches. And you'll repeat those 6 stitches across until you get to the last 4 stitches in this row. And for those last 4 stitches, we will do a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the last 2 stitches. And that is row 5. So once again, row 5 is to do a stacked single crochet. And then the 6-stitch repeat is to do a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2 until you get to the last 4 stitches in the row. And then you do a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2. And then we're ready for row 6. For row 6, we will start with a stacked single crochet. And then the next 2 stitches, we will double crochet. And then chain 1 and skip 1. Now that is our 6-row repeat for this pattern. Now you'll repeat the center 6 stitches over and over to make this much wider. And that's where we will start with our garment. Now for this pattern, I'll be showing the size small. So for the size small, I changed 203 stitches and then started doing that repeat for those 6 rows, and I am on my 30th row. What you can do is this will be from the under your arms down, and don't forget we have about an inch worth of ribbing on the bottom here. So you can always try it on, like hold it up to your body to see if you like the length. If you want it longer or shorter, just feel free to add more rows in increments of 6. If you do that, it'll make sure that the top parts of this work out for the front. So this is just one very long strip of fabric. This wraps all the way around us. This makes it super easy. We're not going to have to do any side seaming on this. So I'm going to work my 30th row and then we're going to start working on the fronts. So now that we have our long panel and we have the height we want on that panel, it is time for us to start working these V points for the front, left, and right sections of this. So for this next row, I've marked the 53rd stitch in the row because that's what I'll be working to for the size small. and then I'm ready to work my first row, but we will be stopping right at the same stitch where the stitch marker is and turning, and we'll be working back and forth while also decreasing for each row. Mentioned for this next section we will be doing, which is the points on each side of our right and front left. For every single size I have the written instructions, but in the PDF purchase pattern that you can download once purchased from one of my shops, it also includes the chart instructions for every single size. So I've charted out every single size. If you prefer to work from charts, that is in that purchasable PDF download. Now we're going to start right off the bat with a stacked single crochet, double crochet 3 together. This is worked by still using that stacked stitch, but we're going to be decreasing as if it was a double crochet 3 together. So I'm going to insert my hook into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And then this is where we start our decreasing. We're going to insert through that vertical bar like we had before, yarn over and pull up a loop, but do not complete the stitch until we yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and now we can go ahead and pull through all 4 loops on the hook, and that is the very first stitch, and that is a stacked double crochet 3 together. And now we're going to be working our repeat here, which is going to be to double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet 2. And that's our repeat across until we get to the last 8 stitches. And what I mean by the last 8 stitches is this is the end of our row here, what's marked here. So the last 8 stitches to the stitch marker is when we will stop. So we're going to do the repeat of double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next 2 until the last 8 stitches. And now for row 2, we will start with that stacked single crochet decrease. We're decreasing by doing almost a double crochet 3 together. And we can go ahead and mark that first stitch if needed. And then this will be our repeat. We're going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 3. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So you'll repeat those 6 stitches across. You'll repeat that 6 stitch repeat until the last 4 stitches in the row. And now for the last 4 stitches, we will chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet 3 together. And once again, we have decreased, so now we have 45 stitches in our row. And now we can turn. And now for row 3, we're going to start the same way we have on the previous rows with a stacked decrease. And go ahead and mark that first stitch in the row if you remember to. It is helpful. And now we are going to start this row. This repeat for this row is going to be double crochet 1, chain 1 and skip 1, and we're going to do that twice, so we'll double crochet again, chain 1 and skip 1, and then we'll double crochet 2. And that is our repeat across. So that is to double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1, those instructions twice, and then double crochet 2, and repeat those until the last 6 stitches in this row. And now for the last 6 stitches of row 3, we will double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1, and then with 3 stitches left, we will double crochet those 3 stitches together and turn. And now for row 4, we will start with a stacked decrease. And then our repeat for this row is to double crochet 4, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1. And we're going to work those 6 stitches all the way across until we get to the last 8 stitches. Now for the last 8 stitches in row 4, we will double crochet 4, then we are going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet 3 together. And that's the end of row 4. And at the end of row 4, we should have 37 stitches. So now for row 5, we're going to start the same way as the previous rows with a stacked single crochet decrease. And then here's our repeat. We're going to double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1, chain 1, and skip 1. So we'll repeat those 6 stitches until we get to the last 4 stitches in the row. So at the last 4 stitches of row 5, we will do a double crochet and then a double crochet 3 together, and then we turn for row 6. At the end of row 5, you will have a total of 33 stitches for this size small. And now for row 6, we're going to start with that stacked decrease. And then we are going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. And then we will chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. So that's our repeat for row 6. That's double crochet 2, and then chain 1, skip 1, double crochet twice. And you'll repeat that until the last 6 stitches of this row. And now in the last 6 stitches, we will double crochet 2, chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet 3 together. Now you'll start to notice with this that it's rolling inward. That's great. That's kind of what we want. This little bit of roll for this fabric is what we want because that will help shape this around our chest when we're wearing it. So now for row 7. For row 7, we'll start with that stacked decrease. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2. And that's what we'll be repeating across until we get to the last 8 stitches of this row. So the repeat is to double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2 until the last 8 stitches of this row. Now for the last 8 stitches of row 7, we will double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1, and then double crochet the last 3 stitches together, and that finishes row 7, which we will have a stitch count of 25 stitches on row 7 now. And we turn for row 8. For row 8, we'll start with that stacked decrease. Then we are going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1. And that's our repeat until the last 4 stitches. So our repeat is chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1 until the last 4 stitches of this row. Now for the last 4 stitches of row 8, we will simply do a chain 1, skip 1, double crochet the last 3 stitches together, and that's the end of row 8, and we will have a total of 21 stitches at the end of this row. Now for row 9, we'll start with that stacked decrease. And then this row will start with a double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1, and we'll work that twice. So double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and then we'll double crochet 2. So the repeat for row 9 is to do double crochet 1, chain 1, skip 1 twice, then double crochet 2. Now for the last 6 stitches of row 9, we will do double crochet, 1 stitch, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 1, and then double crochet 3 together. And at the end of row 9, we have a total of 17 stitches. And you can tell that each row is getting much faster at this point because we're really decreasing as we go to make this point. Now for row 10, we're starting with that stacked decrease. And then we're going to double crochet 4. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 5. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 3 together. And at the end of row 10, we have a total of 13 stitches. And now on to row 11. So for row 11, we'll start with that stacked decrease. And then we'll double crochet 3. And then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet twice. And then we have 3 stitches left and we will double crochet those together. And at the end of row 11, we have a total of 9 stitches. And for row 12, we're going to start with that stacked decrease. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet the last 3 stitches together. This will leave us with a total of 5 stitches at the end of row 12. And when we turn and work row 13, this is our last row. For the way this size works out, we're going to start with a stacked single crochet. Then we're going to double crochet 3 stitches together. And we'll end the row with a stacked single crochet. And we have 3 stitches there. We can go ahead and we can fasten off this first side. Then we can go ahead and weave in this end for this first side. And we're ready to do our second side. And we're going to keep it with this right side facing us because we started our first row for here with the right side facing us, but we'll want to work the other side. So we're simply going to count in 53 stitches from the opposite side with the same right side facing us, and we're going to join our yarn at that 53rd stitch and work across these 53 stitches on the other side. We will be working those the exact same way we worked this first side, and then come on back. Now that I have my second point done, you'll notice that these curl. That's perfect. We want them to curl a little bit. It really forms around our bust. it's time for us to do the perimeter of this. So we're going to go ahead with the right side facing. We're going to attach to this top point here, like where it starts to come down the front if we were to fold it. Because when we look at this garment and we fold in the sides, you can see where we're headed here. This is how it's going to fit. Our buttons will go down the front here, and then we'll place straps on later. So when we are going to go ahead and do this front part, we want to start at this corner so that we end on this corner. So for this, we're going to attach the yarn here, and then we're going to slip stitch 3 stitches per every 2 rows on these vertical sides, 1 stitch per 1 stitch on the bottom here. And then when we get to the diagonals, we're going to do 2 stitches per row. So we'll slip stitch all the way around to make a nice clean edge, and then come on back. Now that we have slip stitched all the way around this perimeter, it will make the rest of this a bit sharper and it will look really, really nice. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to be working on this first side of front trim. So we'll be working from this point here down to the bottom. Now, if you're wondering about which side the button should go on for it to be a women's garment, I will tell you right now, I don't buy into that theory. I looked up a lot of research on which side the buttons should go on, and it's really honestly a bunch of just like crazy stuff from old time. It doesn't matter. Man or woman, whatever side you want to put the buttons on, it's fine. Especially if you read that history and you realize it's really just a bunch of, I don't know what the word is. But anyway, I won't say it here. So here we go to keep on going. I'm going to turn here. Now we're going to be working along this edge. I'm going to open this up so you can see these stitches a little bit better. So I have gone ahead and I've chained 1 here, and working in the back loops only, I'm going to go ahead and single crochet in each stitch until I get to this bottom corner. So we're simply going to be working single crochet stitches into the back loops only all the way down to that bottom corner. So now that we've worked our first row, we're going to go ahead and turn and work a row of single crochet through both loops. So just your regular single crochet stitches. You can go ahead and chain 1 on the edge and then single crochet working back up this until we get to that front corner. Now we're going to turn again and we're going to work across this one more time, but we're going to do so with a slip stitch. So we're going to chain 1 and working in the front loop only this time, we are going to slip stitch down the front of this, making sure that our slip stitches are not too tight. We don't want to cause any puckering here. We don't want to make this not lay flat. So with a decent with a decent tension that's semi-loose, go ahead and slip stitch in the front loop only all the way down the front of this. Now after doing those slip stitches and we've gone all the way down to the bottom here, we can go ahead and fasten off and we can weave in that end. And now we're ready to do the other side of the front closure. Now for the buttonholes. You may have different size buttons than I do, or they might be smaller or larger. You can really do any button you want. You just want to make sure the chain spaces we will be making are a little bit smaller and tighter than the buttons, so when they slide through, they don't come undone. But this is where we're going to bring in our stitch markers. I'm going to be placing 6 buttons along the front here. You can always place as many buttons as you like. And I found the easiest way to do this, to figure out where to place these buttons, is to go ahead and use stitch markers and place them where you want your buttons. And that way you can move it around and see. So for these buttons, I will be doing a chain 2 wherever there's a space for the buttons. So I'll be chaining 2 and skipping 2. And I'm actually going to chain pretty tight just to make sure that these holes are small enough for my buttons that they don't pop off, they stay on. And so when I did this, I went ahead and I marked along the edges. We'll be using these stitches. We'll be using the back loops of these stitches where I wanted to chain 2 and skip 2. So this is where I would want my first button to be. I find it's easiest to mark the first and the last buttons to begin with. And then I'll want my top button pretty close to the top here. So I'll mark where I want my top button to be. And remember, it will be a chain 2 and skip 2. And now I'm going to evenly space out the 4 other buttons between these two, and that way it will be as even as possible if even if we had added length. So if you had added length to yours and you wanted more buttons, this will be the same method you'll use. I find it's best to work it this way because then there's no surprises and we know right where our buttons will be. So go ahead and place your buttons evenly spaced along the front, or the stitch markers evenly spaced along the front of this, so we can make the button holes as we go. So for my buttons, I have 6 stitches between each chain 2 space for the buttons. So I count 2 as the buttonhole, and then there's 6 in between each buttonhole, except for the bottom has 7 because it's not an even number, but it works out fine. I believe that's the same as I did on this one over here, and it worked out great. You really don't notice if one of them is a bit off by 1 or 2 stitches. Not noticeable. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my yarn to the bottom corner. So it's the bottom left front corner. And chain 1, and then working in the back loops only, I'm going to single crochet until I get to a stitch marker. And when you get to stitch marker, chain 2, skip 2, and then single crochet until the next stitch marker. So as I get to the next stitch marker, I will chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then in the back loop only, single crochet until the next stitch marker. Now, if your buttons are a bit bigger, you might have to chain 3 if you're using less buttons, but the buttons are bigger. Or if they're smaller, you might only want to chain 1, skip 1. It just depends on what buttons you're using. So I'm going to work this all the way to the top and then turn. Now that we've worked those and we have the buttonholes created, we can go ahead and remove all the markers, and we're going to turn and single crochet a row. Now, when we single crochet across this next row, we will place stitches in the chains. So if you chain 2, you will single crochet 2 into the chain space so that we're not changing the stitch count. If you chained 1, you will only single crochet 1 in the chain space. So I'm going to turn, and working through both loops, I've chained 1. And we're simply going to be single crocheting across this front edge so that we can mimic the other side. And this looks great together. And then once I get to these holes, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 single crochets into each chain 2 space, and then keep on going. And now I have a nice buttonhole. So now we're going to turn, and our last row for this will be the same as what we did on that first one. And we're going to start with a chain 1, and then working in the front loops only, we are going to slip stitch across to the top of this opening, and then we can fasten off and weave in our ends. So we're simply doing those front loop only slip stitches again. It creates a really nice knit look edge to it. That's why I like doing it. It's just a little bit extra that makes it look nice and clean. So I'll slip stitch all the way to the top here, fasten off, weave in my ends, and then we're going to talk about the straps and the bottom ribbing. Now, when it comes to stitching on our buttons, this is where we will need a needle and thread, because yarn a lot of times is too big to go through these holes. So I do find it best to use a needle and thread. If you think you can get your needle and your yarn through the holes, feel free. Now, what I like to do is I like to start at the top, and I will pull the first button underneath here to make sure this is lining up, and then I'll know where to put my button, and then I'll button it. And then I'll do the next button, making sure that it's sitting right where I want it to be on this side, so that when I'm ready to close it, it's in the exact position I want. And then I'll stitch these down this front we had made, and then I will have all my buttons in place. Now, sewing on buttons is not my favorite thing to do, but it is really worth it for this one because I love the way the button detail turns out. Now, to do the straps, I've come up with something that's like a linked foundation stitch. So I have 3 stitches across the top here, and I'm going to pull up a loop through the first stitch, insert the second stitch, and pull up a loop, and insert the third stitch and pull up a loop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and pull through the first loop on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and that's what we're going to be repeating. So we will insert our hook into this vertical loop, the center vertical loop. So we still have our 3 loops here. We're going to insert into the center one, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then this last one, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we will yarn over and pull through 1, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do that one more time. We will insert our hook into the center vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then into this left side, we'll enter our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on the hook. We will yarn over and pull through 1, then we will yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. It makes a really nice strap. You can always do an I-cord or a chain, but I'm really digging the strap that this creates. I like the thickness, or rather the thinness of it, but yet it's still stable and sturdy. So we're going to go ahead and work this strap for as many rows as you prefer. Now, I know everyone likes to have their straps at different lengths. This is where it comes down to fit and customization. You can try it on, you can make your strap, pin it in place on the back and try it on and see how you like it. But I'm going to show you what I did is I'll write down as many rows as I did for the pattern, and then I stitched them on the back at the same point. I actually, just a tip, I went ahead and tried this on, and I had the bra on that I'll probably be wearing with this, or a bralette. And I had my husband pin these straps to follow the line of the bralette so that it looked good, or better, I thought. I mean, you could really wear it with a lot of different things, but if you want it to look good with whatever you're wearing underneath, it's not a bad idea to try that on and then pin your straps on the back where you like the placement of them. If you would like, you can even make straps that cross. Totally up to you. Now I've got this upside down because we're going to be placing the ribbing along the bottom here, and I've got my hook through the very first stitch on this side. I'll be working in this direction, so this is what we want to do, and I'll be working in the back loop only of most of these slip stitches along the bottom. It really leaves a nice crisp line there and a nice edge. So we'll go ahead and join my yarn and chain 6. Now this last chain is our turning chain, so we are going to start working across these chains and in rows all the way across the bottom here. This is a join as you go ribbing. So in the second chain from the hook, I will single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet in the remaining. But I'm backing up here for a reason. I find if I work in the back humps for this row only, it leaves a nicer edge along the front that seems to match the rest of it. So I'm going to single crochet 5 in the back humps for this row only. After single crocheting 5, we want to slip stitch 2 from the bottom of the body edge in the back loop only. You might find it's a bit funny on this first part because we may have some turning chains when we are working this edge, but you can skip those and just make it look as even as possible, slip stitching 2 from the body edge. Then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to skip those 2 slip stitches, and in the back loop only we are going to single crochet 4. And now for the last stitch, I like to work through both of the loops on the here because I feel like it does a sharper edge. So for the very last stitch, a regular single crochet through both loops. Then we're going to turn our work, chain 1, and now we are going to single crochet into the first stitch through both loops. And now for the remaining 4 stitches, we will work in the back loop only for 4. The single crochet 4 in the back loop only. And now we will slip stitch in the back loop only from those bottom edge stitches. Turn our work. And then skip those 2 slip stitches and single crochet in the back loop only for 4, and then single crochet through both loops of that last stitch. So we're just going to be repeating those 2 rows again and again all the way across the bottom here until we have a nice ribbing to the other edge. So we'll do it all the way along this bottom. And as you can see on this finished tank, it looks really nice to have that ribbed edging. Once you get to the end, you can fasten off and weave in your end. And after you've got those buttons on, you are ready to wear this item. It has become one of my favorite for summer. I love wearing a bralette underneath it. It's very light. The cotton is very breathable. And I love having the filet crochet in here too. I can style this so many different ways. Long pants, skirt, shorts. I can put a cardigan over it. I can wear this over one of my maxi dress tops to kind of like add a little bit more flair to it. So this is really, I know I'm going to wear this for a long time, and I really hope you enjoy wearing this one too. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back for more fun patterns soon.